After a long, arduous and seemingly endless wait, Dark Souls 3 is now officially available in the West. Now of course, there were some enjoying the game a little early thanks to that sneaky little workaround on Xbox One, but of course it is now officially available on console and PC. I myself, of course, am talking about the PC version today, my early impressions of it on day one. Now, of course, it did unlock late last night, but sadly I was already asleep by the time it unlocked, so I have been playing it today on the official release date. Now, just to get it out of the way so you have an idea of what it takes to run this game, I am of course running Windows 10 and I have an Intel i5 2500K at 3.3 GHz, 16 gigs of RAM, and GPU wise I am using a 780 Ti with of course the latest drivers. And I am happy to report that the Dark Souls 3 port is fine, mostly. Frame rate seems pretty damn solid, staying around 60, maybe dropping a frame or two here and there, but nothing too bad to worry about. Now, it will occasionally nosedive for no discernible reason, like for example, I'm just walking along down a pathway or whatever, there won't even be any enemies on screen and it will just randomly nosedive at 10 frames or something and then instantly recover. A little strange, but it is day one, perhaps there's some issues they haven't ironed out, or perhaps it's just something to do with my setup, perhaps it was just the goblins that live in my PC, it's hard to say. The frame rate so far is pretty solid, even when fighting enemies and even when fighting the first boss. I did not notice any frame rate dips or anything else. The controls are smooth. I didn't feel frustrated by any input lag or anything like that. It was tight and responsive as you would expect of Dark Souls 3, although of course it is still very much built for a controller. But are you really surprised by that? I don't think you are. Now, the reason I caveated my statement earlier with mostly is for one huge issue. Now, I actually started my playthrough of Dark Souls 3 as a pyromancer because I started Dark Souls 1 as a knight, and obviously it takes ages to get pyromancy if you're not a pyromancer to start with, and actually really enjoyed the utilization of long-range gameplay via pyromancy and of course short-range via sword and shield or spear and shield sometimes. So I thought, excuse my phone going off, I honestly thought I had silenced it, forgive me. Anyway, so as I was saying, I wanted to start as a pyromancer because I actually quite enjoyed the dual style of gameplay that offered, at least in Dark Souls 1, and everything seemed peachy keen. Until I reached the first bonfire. I think this is a story you're going to hear a few times because there's a huge thread on the Dark Souls 3 Reddit, which I'll link in the description below, about all the crash reports, and a lot of people are having this issue. Now, I actually headed to this thread and they recommended that one of the potential fixes for this particular error, where the game will literally just crash out after reaching the first bonfire, is to play as a knight. Now, essentially what happened is I would sit at the bonfire, that's fine, it would save my progress, refill my health and Estus and whatnot, and then I was just enjoying the lovely view that you have by the first bonfire, and all of a sudden the game crashed, and I got a message saying that the Nvidia drivers had crashed already. So, a little perturbed at this point, I restarted the game, and lo and behold, it happened again, which led me to the Reddit thread which said that if you go and become a knight, you can get past that first bonfire without issue. Now, a lot of people are also reporting that they're getting past this bonfire bug by using the lighting low setting, but I just thought I'd try the knight class and perhaps try the lighting low another time. I was of course just trying to get impression of the PC version for now. I'm not too bothered about losing that little bit of progress that I made if I want to go back to my pyromancer after they fix this issue. But this is a pretty big problem, and I don't know if it is actually happening with any other classes. I only had it with a pyromancer so far. There are some users in the Reddit thread reporting that it happens with a mercenary class, and sometimes it even happens if you take your clothes off, it crashes. So yeah, The PC port is fine mostly. The performance in terms of frame rate is fine. The graphics options are fine. Exactly what I'd expect. A fully utilised graphics options menu as you'd come to expect. It looks damn beautiful. I'm definitely going to say that the game is stunning in that weird Dark Souls way where it's bleak and depressing at the same time. But this crashing issue is obviously a pretty damn big one, and obviously means that if it's restricting to certain classes, obviously you might not want to play a night class. You might have your heart set on playing a pyromancer or whatever. I mean, I'm not too fussed as playing as a knight if that's what it comes to, but I did actually want to play as a pyromancer, so a little frustrating. And some people are even reporting crashes after opening the door to the very first real shrine area where you meet the first real human characters that don't try to kill you. So it seems that most of the crashes are occurring around the first bonfire, and that is the theme that I'm getting by reading this Reddit thread and other posts elsewhere on Steam and whatnot. But it seems that there are other issues as well. So if the lighting low fix or the night class fix does not fix any crashes you might be experiencing, I suggest you go ahead and post in the thread that's linked below or on the Steam forums, because there is undoubtedly some weird wonderful fix that someone's discovered in the few hours since this game actually came out, and it's a real shame that this pretty annoying problem is overshadowing what is otherwise a rather good PC port. And the funny thing is, I actually remember a critic talking about this exact issue with the press version. Now you might remember that the press got it about 3 weeks ago. If obviously Namco gave them a code, they obviously didn't give me a code. And I believe it was Jim Sterling or someone. Don't quote me on that. It was someone talking about how they were playing the PC version with review code, and the first bonfire was causing this exact same crash that I'm experiencing, and of course many other users are still experiencing now. And if he fixed it by switching to a night class. So it seems in the 3 weeks since the press got a hold of it, and undoubtedly members of the press told Namco/From Software about the problems with crashing, and nothing has been done in those 3 weeks since then. So it's a real shame that there's that problem overshadowing this otherwise rather good PC port. Hopefully they'll fix it soon, because it's a damn shame. As for the graphics options, as I said earlier, it's pretty much what you'd expect. You've got texture quality, which goes all the way up to maximum, anti-aliasing on or off, no mention of what type of anti-aliasing, sadly. SSAO goes all the way up to high, depth of field is maximum. Motion blur on or off, it took me about a split second to turn that off, tell you that much. Shadow quality, lighting quality, effects quality, and reflection quality all go up to maximum. Water surface quality, only goes up to high, and shader quality is maximum. And of course it does have just default quality settings of low, medium, high, and of course maximum. Then you have your custom setting. Resolution screen modes is either full screen or windowed, no borderless window at the time of recording, which is a bit disappointing. And resolution supported is what you'd expect, but no weird resolutions there at the moment. So it's a bit limiting in terms of the resolution options, but other than that, the graphics options are pretty much what I would expect. In terms of audio, you have music, sound effects, and voice, different sliders for each of them. You can turn the HUD on or off, the blood on or off, or the subtitles on or off as well. And you naturally have your settings for the camera y-axis and camera speed and all of that good stuff. And of course you also have settings for online with cross-region play, password matching, summon sign visibility, voice chat, and launch settings. So if you just want to play offline by default, you can do that. And you can, as I said, turn matchmaking off, which it actually defaulted to, by the way. So you actually have to turn matchmaking on unless I change that without realising, which, if that's the case, forgive me. But there we go. That is a pretty nice rundown of the early impressions of the Dark Souls 3 port. As I said, it's mostly pretty damn good, with the performance being rock solid across the board. Only issue is those random frame drops, which might be something on my machine because it didn't seem to be caused by anything in the game rather. And of course that crash issue which I've talked at length about. So there you have it. I might revisit this at a later date if things improve, but for now that is me done for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.